jack it up.
Hurts keeps, Hurts cuts, Hurts has the first down, and Jalen Hurts might have just put it away for the Eagles. Touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey and the Sixers are going to win this game. Joel, tough turnaround in the lane. Another 30-10 performance for Joel Embiid.
Hurts connects with DeAndre Swift.
Hello and welcome back to the 215 Scoop. We're here once again to talk some Eagles. A week ago, the 2023 draft kicked off. Today's Friday. I'm sorry, it's been a little over a week since it kicked off, but today's Friday. We're here to break down, obviously, the fantastic draft that Howie Roseman had. Going to go through that, and as well as later on, we're going to break down some Sixers. We'll talk some Sixers. We'll switch over to that. Just break down that Celtics series as well. But before we get into anything, Asher, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well, actually. So I just finished my second to last final essay for the semester yesterday. So just one thing left to write, and I'm done.
Let's just get into this Eagles draft. Just Howie Roseman done it again. Let me just start with that. Just an amazing draft all around. Let's start off with the very first pick in the draft. So first of all, the Eagles are slated to pick at 10. They traded up one pick with the Bears. They traded pick 9. They traded pick 10 and a 2024 fourth-round pick for pick 9. And with that ninth pick, they picked defensive tackle Jalen Carter out of Georgia, which was one of our top prospects to pick at 10. We were expecting Howie to possibly trade up, and he did so, and he didn't really have to trade that much. He's arguably the best player in the draft. Looking at most big boards all around, if you look at NFL.com, Pro Football Focus, all these sports media websites, top 5, maybe even top 3 on most of the big boards. Yeah. So this dude was projected to go top 5. He probably would have gone to the Texans over Will Anderson if he didn't have the off-field issues. And the best part of that is I was simultaneously watching the stream with I think it was on ESPN or something. I forget what it was on, but it was A.J. Brown and Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons, when he saw that the Eagles picked Jalen Carter, and his exact reaction, and I quote, he said, I'm sick to my stomach. I can't believe the Eagles got him. So we have Micah Parsons, who is a legendary Eagles shit talker, shaking in his boots right now because we just got Jalen Carter. And it gets better. We'll get to that later, but let's just break down this Jalen Carter pick. And, Asher, my question for you is, how concerned are you about those off-field issues? Like, do you think it was just like a one-incident thing where he's just a racer? I know friends that are racers. Shit happens. Obviously, like the worst-case scenario happened this summer in Georgia. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was definitely an unfortunate situation. Whether or not you think that speaks like deeply to his character, it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't really matter because the Eagles already have a really good culture in place. Mm-hmm. So like a player like that, you don't want going to like a Texans or a Cardinals, a team with a new coach in place that hasn't won recently, just trying to kind of get guys in there and set the culture. When you have a winning culture already, it's okay to bring those guys in. And the talent upside is enormous. Oh
yeah, that too. And then let's not forget that he also has former teammates. He's joining Nakobe Dean, and he's going to be lining up alongside with Jordan Davis. Jalen Carter, I believe, is going to be the replacement for Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox, I expect to be gone after this year. I could see Jalen Carter seeing more snaps than Fletcher Cox, just because Fletcher Cox is kind of flatline, if not dipped, as far as production goes from the defensive line. So Jalen Carter, not only is he coming into a winning culture with a guy like Nick Sirianni as his coach, great guy, very lighthearted, keeps things fun, as well as, just building that culture. And he's going to be there with his buddies too. And that kind of leads us into this next pick, which is another Georgia Bulldog that was a part of that legendary, historic, record-breaking 2021 Georgia Bulldog defense. And that was edge rusher / linebacker Nolan Smith, who at 30, super high value pick. I think he was projected to go top 15. He was kind of like, we were talking about the draft when we were talking draft preview. We were looking at as a backup option to pick at 10 if Jalen Carter is off the board and Bijan. So the fact that we got him at 30 is ridiculous to me. So, I mean, as far as a pro comp to him, he reminds me of Brandon Graham or Hassan Reddick. More of a Hassan Reddick. He can get after the quarterback. He can strip the ball. He's easily could be the steal of the draft here across the entire league. I'm just incredibly impressed. And I'm just like aghast at the fact that the league let Nolan Smith drop to us at 30. Because obviously that was a no-brainer pick at 30. But overall, what are your thoughts on that? I think that's a steal of the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely could be. First of all, I want to give us kind of a pat on the back because it seems like in our Eagles draft preview, we kind of had the picks locked down. It seems like at 9, Howie, after Bijan went, it was pretty clear that Howie wanted Bijan or Jalen Carter. That's why he traded up to get Jalen after Bijan was gone. So, and that was our top two options. And then we also said, don't be surprised if the Eagles take Nolan Smith. We were talking about the pick at 10, but they ended up with him at 30. It seems like he fell most likely due to being a little undersized for an edge rusher. He's 6'2", a little lighter for an edge rusher, but he's actually an inch taller than Hassan Reddick, which I've seen a couple player comps him to Reddick. So it's kind of nice that he ends up here with Reddick kind of able to mentor him.
Yeah, and who's to say he can't put on weight this summer before the season begins? So another high upside pick. I mean, low risk, high reward pick with Nolan Smith picking at 30. Didn't have to move at all. I mean, I was thinking maybe if they really wanted another edge rusher, Nolan Smith, they could possibly trade up. But they got him at 30, which is freaking amazing. Moving on to round 3 at pick 65. They took offensive guard Tyler Steen from Alabama. Again, I don't know what's going on. Howie seems to be building the Alabama offense and the Georgia Bulldog defense, which is outrageous. The two best units in college football over the past 5 to 10 years. He's putting them together here in Philadelphia. So I think this is definitely a depth pick. I could see Tyler Steen. I don't see him starting this year, but I could definitely see him starting next year. Say if Kelsey retires after this season, Cam Jurgens slides over to center. I could see Tyler Steen sliding right into where Cam Jurgens is right now. So overall, I mean, future 4. I put in my notes. I said he's a future 4.0 Stoutland University student. I think he will develop fantastically. The Eagles are one of the best, if not the best, in the league in terms of developing offensive linemen. Hence why they've been so dominant with that offensive front over the past 10 to 20 years. So overall, I mean, I don't have too much to say. Was there anything you really had to say about this pick, Ash?
No, just I think I'm right on track with you. Definitely not going to be a starter this year. I think he kind of fits the mold of previous 2nd and 3rd round offensive lineman picks we've had, where he's very versatile. He's able to play either tackle position. He could slide into guard if he has to. And then you have a guy like Jurgens who's currently backing up Kelsey. He could play center or guard. So a lot of different movable, switchable pieces on the bench for offensive line right now.
Absolutely. We both came into the draft expecting Howie to do his thing. He loves to draft in the trenches, especially early on. He does a fantastic job with that. So I think so far, Howie has nailed essentially every single one of his picks. And then this one, I forget how we got this pick. It was the pick directly after we picked Tyler Steen.
Yeah.
And then there was a trade. I believe it was with the Cardinals. Was with the Jonathan Gannon thing.
Yeah. So we actually originally had 62, and we traded back with the Texans for 65, which was the Steen pick. And then we had pick 94. And then because the Cardinals were tampering with Jonathan Gannon, apparently, they allowed us to trade 94 and a future 5th round pick for 66.
Yeah, and that's a whole controversy. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't know anything about the tampering. I didn't see anything about it until I saw the headline where we made the trade, and I was like, wait, there was tampering there? I was really perplexed, but no complaints because at 66, we got safety Sidney Brown from Illinois. He's a very hard-hitting guy. He's quick. He's versatile. He can slide right in there as a C.J. Gardner-Johnson replacement. There will definitely be a competition there between him and was it Reed Witherspoon?
Blankenship.
Reed Blankenship. Sorry, Reed
Yeah.
Blankenship. So I think it's going to be that. As far as a pro comparison, I look at him as like a Rodney McLeod, maybe a Malcolm Jenkins to this team. I mean, he's definitely a high upside player. Another great pick by Howie Roseman. I think this was probably the smartest pick at this position. How about you, Asher? What do you think?
Yeah, I like the pick also. I actually saw a somewhat acclaimed reporter, sports writer compare him to Brian Dawkins. I don't know. I don't want to get our hopes too high. I think even Malcolm Jenkins or Rodney McLeod is a bit too high.
Listen, I was actually thinking about that as I was putting together my notes. I was like watching film on this guy. I was, when we drafted my lot, I watched film. I looked at all this stuff. I was like, could this guy be a Brian Dawkins for us? But I don't want to reach that far. That's the thing. No. I didn't want to reach. I want to be like, yeah, like when we drafted Kayvon Wallace in 2020, I was like, safety from Clemson. Yeah, he's going to be our next Brian Dawkins. Dude hasn't done shit with us. At all. He's probably played, 10% of the snaps he's been here for, something like that. But Sidney Brown, great pick. And then here, the Eagles and Howie Roseman in round 4 come back and they go secondary again. They go with another Georgia Bulldog, which that alone is fantastic. I think at this point, with how many Georgia Bulldogs there are on the defense, I think if we really draft anybody, I mean, with this guy, Kaylee Ringo, cornerback, I think the chemistry there is going to be amazing. I think he'll slide right in there. I don't think I don't know where he would play. I don't even know if he would play this year. He could probably slide in, maybe play that slot position. But again, I have to watch film on him. I didn't watch much. All I know is that he's a Georgia Bulldog. I've watched some highlights. Seems very good. He's a ball hawk. He can get up there, pick it off. And I know that he's also been working with Richard Sherman for the past month or so, month or two. I don't know how long he's been seeing Richard Sherman, trying to really up his game and using. I mean, Richard Sherman is a great mentor to have.
Yeah, and I really like this pick. Besides the fact that he just kind of slots in with all the other Georgia Bulldogs and creates some chemistry there. Yeah. But he's 6'2". He's really athletic, really strong, good tackler for a cornerback. The main issue with him is that he's not great in coverage yet, but kind of fits the bill of the Howie Roseman mid to late round picks, where he's very versatile, could play in the slot, could play outside, could play as a box safety maybe. And I think it's a good problem to have that he needs to improve his coverage, but he's already a really sound tackler and physical player. I think that's easier to improve than kind of having the will to tackle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, that's honestly great because I remember my days as an Eagles fan back in like 2014, 2015, maybe even 2016. The Eagles corners, the defense just couldn't tackle. So, I mean, it's nice to see Howie going after these kind of guys where they can make tackles in the open field, especially when you're going up against a lot of the NFC East is just star-studded. You got Terry McLaurin, quick guy. You've got CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys have some stars. They also have Brandon Cooks now. And the Giants, you got Saquon Barkley. You've got I'm trying to think of who the receivers are at the moment. I can't think of it, but I know the NFC East is very talented on the offensive end, so I think it's going to be very good. I think he'll probably learn under Darius Slay or James Bradbury. I'm hoping Slay kind of gives him a little bit more. I hope he learns a little bit more from Darius Slay, just because Darius Slay has experience. He's been in the league for quite a bit, and he's also Darius Slay is definitely one of the best cover corners in the league. So, given that he's not that strong in the area, I think Darius Slay could teach him a few things, and it definitely would be great.
Yeah.
That about does it as far as like the picks that I was really excited about. We'll go into round 6. Pick 188. A little bit perplexing. I watched this pick. I was perplexed at first moment. They got quarterback Tanner McKee from Stanford. I was surprised they went quarterback in the draft at all. However, looking at the roster right now and how it's constructed, Marcus Mariota is only signed to a 1-year deal. Is that correct?
I believe so. And when you look back, it really kind of makes sense, and it fits in with what Howie likes to do.
Mhm.
Going all the way back to, like, you remember 2013 when they drafted Matt Barkley in the 4th round. They like to take these kind of high upside quarterbacks and throw them on the practice squad, making the 3rd, 4th string. We had who was that 3rd string quarterback just like a couple years ago? He was always like on the practice squad, or he was 3rd string.
Not Matt.
I didn't look it up before.
Remember Kevin Cobb?
Kevin Cobb, yeah.
Kevin Cobb was way back in
G.J. Kinney, do you remember him?
Oh yeah! Oh my God, that guy!
That's a deep pull.
Oh my God, dude,
Yeah.
that's a throw, dude. I completely forgot about that guy.
Yeah. So Howie loves to have a young quarterback on his practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, given like we just said, 1-year deal for Marcus Mariota, I don't imagine the Eagles bring him back, especially with Jalen Hurts as our franchise QB. So I think Tanner McKee is definitely our future backup quarterback. I mean, we have to see what he's got. I don't know, but this pick is kind of like whatever. Like, don't really care about it. It's not really significant in any way.
He's 6'6", really good arm strength.
Mhm.
The main concerns with him is that he's not really mobile. His decision making isn't great yet, but I think the mobility is not going to improve. But you have a 6'6" guy that has a cannon. I mean, there's upside there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final pick in the draft that the Eagles made was in round 7, pick 249, defensive tackle Moro Ohomo. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's from Texas. I didn't really have much down on this guy, but I know he's projected a 4th, 5th round pick, so definitely a high value pick there. It's going to add some more depth to the already stacked defensive line that the Eagles have right now. So definitely a good depth pick. But I don't imagine this guy making any sort of impact in the next year, maybe 2. This guy's definitely going to be a guy that's just going to learn under Fletcher Cox, probably going to learn from him. And then he's also got I know he's got rookies. I know Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter are all like young defensive tackles, but I think he could probably learn a thing or two from those guys as well. So he's a good developmental tackle. I think he could definitely. I mean, it's a defensive tackle adding on to this already stacked defensive line. But Howie, just like last year, Howie made that trade for A.J. Brown. He pulled it off again. Not an A.J. Brown caliber player, but still a good playmaker to add on to this Eagles offense. And that was DeAndre Swift. The Eagles traded pick 219 and a 2025 4th round pick to the Lions for DeAndre Swift. And I believe there was a 2024 conditional 4th round pick, if I'm not mistaken. I was looking at the details. I heard it from multiple sources that they did get a conditional, but then also I'm like looking at it, I can't find anything. But in essence, we got DeAndre Swift for a bag of chips, maybe even nothing if he doesn't play enough snaps. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's a conditional 4th in that trade.
Everything I found just said we traded pick 219 and 2025 5th. Maybe that 5th could turn into a 4th if he plays enough snaps. That might be it.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. But anyway, we got DeAndre Swift here. Obviously, high upside. I mean, when he's on the field, he's a great running back. Averages 4.7 yards a carry. He definitely adds another dimension to the Eagles running back core. I definitely like this move, and especially if they get that conditional pick, it's kind of a win-win situation. If you get DeAndre Swift to play and stay healthy, which I think the Eagles can, I think this is a very, very good trade. What are your thoughts on DeAndre Swift? Because I think I'm getting a lot of mixed emotions everywhere. Some people are like, I don't really like it. Some people love it. So
Howie adds another Georgia Bulldog, which is funny.
Another Georgia.
But he averaged 5.5 yards per carry last year. He only played 14 games, only started 8, and only rushed 99 times. So he's kind of falling out of favor in Detroit for Jamal Williams, who was just kind of became their power running back, their bell cow towards the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually only has 364 rushing attempts in his 3-year NFL career so far, which is, I mean, pretty good. Not a whole lot of tread on the tires. Only 24 years old. So, I mean, I think a guy like that probably has another good 3-4 years in him if everything follows correctly.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is I think the way the Eagles' offense is like the way it's constructed is a little bit different from the line. Actually, I think it's a lot different than the Lions. I mean, the Lions had a committee, but they had like two running backs with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift obviously suffered from a lot of injury, so it's usually just Jamal Williams, and I don't know who they had to back up. But the Eagles, they have three-headed monster in the backfield. They got Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, and Kenneth Gainwell, as well as who's the fourth guy? I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Boston Scott, that too. So that's going to be a little bit of a predicament. But however, given that DeAndre Swift doesn't play that many snaps, and I think, long story short, what I'm trying to get to is I think he slots right into this running back by committee beautifully. I think he fits our scheme. We're not demanding too much from him because we got guys like Rashad Penny, we got Kenneth Gainwell, we got Boston Scott. All of them are quick and shifty guys. Yeah. Obviously, we have Jalen Hurts, which is a monster running back in himself. So I think the Eagles are pretty stacked as far as running the ball next year, especially with DeAndre Swift. Yeah. Hopefully, he can stay healthy throughout the entire year. And if he does, I mean, who's stopping this offense? Honestly, I mean, who's really stopping it?
Yeah, I agree. And the Eagles are kind of hedging their bets, which I like, with Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift, who are both very talented when they're on the field, have had injury concerns. So, I mean, they're kind of betting that one of those guys stays healthy at least. Exactly. And one of those guys just slots right into the Miles Sanders role of taking the first and second, being the first and second down back, and then putting a receiving back like Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott in there for the third down.
Yeah. Now, that about concludes as far as our draft, going over the draft and everything. So, going back, looking at it, your favorite draft pick from this year's draft?
I really like the Khalid Ringo pick.
Okay.
I like that the Eagles kept Slay and Bradbury, so there's really no pressure on him to perform right now. I feel like there's a lot. He's very talented, and sitting a year or two behind those guys will be really valuable for him, and he can slot right in as a high-level starter when we need him to.
For me, I mean, I kind of said it already. I like Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith is by far the most valuable pick, probably in the NFL at pick 30. Again, just like Hassan Reddick, he can get after the quarterback. That's exactly what the Eagles need because, if you look back at the Super Bowl, the Eagles couldn't get to the quarterback. I mean, part of it was just John Gannon being an idiot. But adding a pass rusher like that on top of Hassan Reddick, on top of the entire defensive line, I think that really puts – I mean, if you look at the Eagles' defensive line, you got Nolan Smith on one side and you got Hassan Reddick on the other. Nolan Smith, like I said, is a mini version of Hassan Reddick. So you got two Hassan Reddicks going from each side. I don't care how good your offensive line is. You're not blocking that. You're not blocking both. You're going to have to double one of them, and that leaves one of them open. Unless you have a really good blocking tight end, I don't know how you're stopping that defensive line. And I don't know how the league just isn't ready for this defensive line. I know the league's already scared of the defensive line right now. This defensive line put out 70 sacks last year. They're getting another go-getter, another guy that can collect sacks in Nolan Smith. This Eagles defensive line coming up this year could very well be the best defensive line ever, shattering the sack record. You could see that, but barring any injuries. But even then, the Eagles, if they do bar any injuries, they're deep and they're talented. This team reminds me. I mean, last year the defensive line was fantastic, but this defensive line is different. It kind of reminds me of the 2017 defensive line where it's 10 men deep. You're not wearing down your defensive linemen because you're so deep and you're so talented. So Nolan Smith, by far my favorite pick in this draft. He's so talented. He might be a little undersized. I don't care. I mean, he's like you said, inch taller than Hassan Reddick. There's nothing telling me that he can't bulk up in the summer. So if he can put on a few extra pounds of muscle, dude, it's game over. That's by far my favorite pick in this draft. Close. I mean, I would put Khalid Ringo at second as far as value goes, and then I mean, I didn't want to be basic and go with Jalen Carter, but there's no doubt Jalen Carter is going to be a stud for the defensive line. But Yeah, that was my favorite. Overall, give this entire draft a grade.
I hesitate to go with an A plus until I feel like that really depends on whether Carter pans out or not as far as the off the field concerns and things like that. But I'm gonna go with an A right now with the possibility to move up to an A plus.
I agree. Right, I'm right there with you. I would put an A plus, but in my opinion, there's no such thing as a perfect draft. You can look at all these prospects and be like, yeah, like these guys are good, but you don't know until you see them on the field and see how they slot into the system. There's no doubt in my mind that the Eagles hit on basically every single pick outside of maybe the Tanner McKee pick.
Yeah.
But I think this team did fantastic. They're deep in the trenches, and that's where you win football games. And assuming that everything plays out the way it should, this should be an A plus draft. But I can't go A plus until I see it. So I agree with you. I'm at an A. I was debating A minus after that the Tanner McKee pick. I don't like once they got DeAndre Swift, that kind of put me over the edge.
Yeah.
I was like A minus. I was like, okay, but I got him at an A. Now looking at the odds, I believe the Eagles have the post draft odds. I don't have them pulled up. I don't know if you can pull them up, but I know the Eagles are I believe they're plus 600, only behind the Chiefs. I believe the Chiefs are like plus 550 or something like that. So it's a very tight margin. I don't know. Can you pull those up by any chance?
Yeah. So looks like we have the Chiefs at number 1 with around 600. I'm looking at a couple different betting sites. And then the Eagles are around 750, 800.
Yeah, okay. So I got my numbers mixed up. But anyway, at this draft, I mean, I know the odds say that the Chiefs should be the favorite, but do you think that the Eagles should be the favorite to win the Super Bowl next year?
Personally, no. I feel like even with the pieces added in the draft, the team still got a little worse over the offseason with the loss of TJ Edwards, CJ Gardner-Johnson. I mean, I feel like people are already forgetting that and how important those pieces were to that defense last year.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you're right. The defensive line is going to be monstrous, probably the best one we've seen, assuming everyone stays healthy. Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, as good as they are, probably are fourth or third on the depth chart at their respective positions just because of how deep this Eagles team is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about the edge rusher, we still have Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, and Derek Barnett coming back from injury. I think all those guys, as of now, probably slot ahead of Nolan Smith. Mm-hmm. So that just illustrates how deep this Eagles rushing group is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you to a degree. I think the Eagles should be the favorite. The only reason why I say that, I mean, there's a lot of X factors to this because, I mean, obviously we have a different defensive coordinator. It's going to be a different scheme. So, I mean, we really have to see how this plays out in the season. But looking at roster-wise on paper, the Eagles have arguably the best offense in the league. I mean, they have a top 3 offense, top 3 defense. I mean, I don't know if there's much arguing with that. I know the Chiefs, they're also very talented, but the Eagles defense is drastically better than the Chiefs defense. The Eagles defense is drastically better than the Chiefs defense. Sorry. Yeah. But so when I'm just like looking at that as far as talent goes on both sides of the ball, the Chiefs might be better coached at the moment, but I mean, just looking at sheer talent, I think should be hats off to the Eagles, and the Eagles should be the favorite at the moment. I get the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl and everything, and of course the Super Bowl winner is going to be the favorite for next year. But I mean, when's the last time we've seen a repeat Super Bowl winner? It's been years, probably since the Patriots won in 03, 04. Yeah, it's like 2003, 2004. So realistically, I mean, just based on how the NFL works, I think the Eagles should be the favorite for next year. But yeah, so that about does it as far as our Eagles talk. Very excited about this upcoming season. We're just waiting for the summer to go by, and I just can't wait for preseason at this point. See how these picks play out, see how they look in the defense and everything.